What's up guys? In today's video I'm going to teach you and I'm going to show you how to create a website with Django. This video is going to be very long because there are a lot of things to do, but I'm going to show you how to do it all in this one video. So let's get started. First of all, as you can see here, I'm in Ubuntu. And I think that is better than Windows for developing things, but yeah, I'm in Ubuntu and I just want to let you know that. So the first thing that you need to do is to open the terminal, and here in the terminal, the first thing that we are going to do is to create a virtual environment. In this virtual environment, we are going to install all the package that we need from Python. So in order to do that, first you need to install the tool in order to use virtual environments, and for that you just use sudo apt-get install virtualenv. So I have it already installed, but you just have to execute this and you will install it. After this, you need to create the environment, and for that it's as simple as putting virtualenv django-env, and here we created the environment django-env. And yeah, in order to activate that environment and to get into the environment, the next thing that we need to do is to put source. Then I recommend you using this because it will come to the beginning of the path of your folders and all that. And here you put Django, we called it env bin activate. So now, as you can see here, you can see that this was added. This is the Anaconda environment. Let me deactivate it. Deactivate. But yeah, we are now in the Django environment. The next thing that you need to do is to create a requirements file in which we are going to put all the packages that we are going to install. So how do we do this? We can use the command gedit, and we are going to use requirements.txt. And as you can see here, I already have this. I will leave this in the description, and by the way, I forgot, I will leave this Django website in the repository of GitHub. So you have that link in the description. So once you have this file, the next thing that you need to do is to simply, let me close it. Once you have this, you just simply need to install all that. And how do you do that? You just put here pip3 install -r requirements.txt. So you press this and all is going to get installed. I have everything installed, so it will not say anything, but yeah, this is how you install everything. And now we are almost there, and now we are going to be able to create our first Django project. So now that everything is installed, in order to create the Django project, you need to execute this command. So you put here Django / I don't know if this is a slash, well, django-admin start project, and we are going to call this project tutorial. All these steps are going to be also in the description, so chill, don't worry. Tutorial. So once you create this, if you do ls, you are going to see that, well, here you have the folder with that, and also here you have the folder with the environment that we just created. So what we are going to do now, and what I recommend you, is now changing stop using the terminal and let's use the Visual Studio Code. So we are going to open a folder, and the folder that we have to open is the tutorial. So you click here, you press OK, and here you have this folder, but you don't have anything. You don't have much things. So the next thing that we are going to do is to open the terminal here, and we are going to deactivate the thing. That's mine. You don't have to do this step, don't worry. And yeah, so if you open the Visual Studio Code, you will be here, and probably you won't have this activated. Why do I have it activated? Because here I'm saying, hey, use this environment for Python. How do you do this? You click here on enter interpreter find. You have here this find thing, and you go to the folder in which you have the environment that we just created. So we go to the Django, let me find the Django environment, not this. We go to the Django environment, then we go to bin, then we go to Python 3, you double click here and you will have it. So now, whenever you, let me do this, whenever you click here, you will have as an option the Django environment. So after saying this, the thing that you have to do is, let me see if I can, is to create an application. How do we create an application in Django? As simple as this. Python 3, you can see here that we have this manage file, which is very important. Python 3, manage.py, startapp, and then we put here catalog. And well, catalog is just the name of the app, but with this command, you start any app, and here you just put the name. So, okay, we have almost everything. Now we could test if the website works. So for example, if we do here Python 3 manage.py runserver, you are going to see that, hey, you have things to put, but yeah, ignore this thing. So if you come here, you click here, let me see if this works. You're going to see that, yeah, the install works successfully and everything is fine for now. But we have to do several changes. So for that, first of all, the first thing that we need to do is to create the models. And what is a model? Basically, Django has an ORM, which is Object Relational Mapping Database. And it means that you can use you can use things in the database such as in a way in which you are using it as if it were objects. So, okay, more or less that. But how do we do that? First of all, you have to go to the app that you created, and then here in the models.py, we are going to create the models. And this is very simple. So we are going to do a simple website in which we have two things, authors and we have books. So let's create first the author model. And usually the models are classes, but yeah, usually the models are classes, but now what we have to do is to call this author. Then here we are going to see that we are going to inherit from the Django model, which was here. This is already written here, so don't worry. And now we are going to say what we want the author model to have. So for example, we are going to say that the author model is going to have a name and is also going to have a slug. If you don't know what is a slug, for example, let's say that my name is going to be in the database as an author. So we would have here Kevin de la Coba Malam. A slug is a way of making this string simpler. So for example, if we make this string a slug, what we would have is everything without capital letters. For example, here, everything without spaces, commas, or dots. Here, and yeah, all separated by this character. So we would have Kevin de la Coba Malam. This is a slug. So knowing that, how do we say what we want to say here? How do we say that this name is going to be a string? It is as simple as calling models and then saying that this is going to be a char field. This char field needs a max length, so we are going to say that the max length is going to be 100. And how do we say that this is going to be a slug? Because a slug is a string. So for that, we need the models slug field. And here we need to say that, okay, this can be null, and also this can be blank. So if we don't add anything, it won't do anything. So let me close this. So now we have a model in which the model has a name and a slug, but the slug is not going to be initialized automatically. It is not going to change the name automatically. We need to do that. How do we do that? First of all, we need to import the library, well, the function, Django template default filters, and here you need to import the function slugify. So now the next thing that you need to do is to redefine the method save. We are going to use later the method save, but in order to use this, we are going to do this save, and this method receives also the self, and here we receive args and kworks. So The next thing is that we need to set the slug. And how do we do this? We say that, okay, self slug is going to be equal to slugify, and then we just simply slugify the name that it gives us. As simple as that. Well, we have to use the self name. So the next thing that we need to do is to use the super method, the upper method to save, because this is not the way Django saves things. So we are going to delete that for Django, and in order to say that Django is going to do that, we are going to use return super, and from super we are going to use the save method. And we are going to give that the arguments that it needs, which are these two. So we have defined the method save. I recommend you to define another useful method, which is the str, the toString. So if we put this here, we are going to define the str method. And we are just going to say that the str method is going to be the name. The str method is basically that whenever you refer an object, how do you want this object to be displayed? How do you want this object to have the string? So for example, if we call an author and we just simply call the author, now what is going to be displayed is the name. So having that, we are going to create another model which is book. So here we are going to put class book, which is going to be also a model in editing from the Django model. And here we are going to define more things. The first one is that it is going to have a title. And again, the title is also going to be a string. So here we put the same thing, max length equal to 100. It is also going to have a price, but the price is a number, so we can use the decimal field. And we are going to say, that this has 2 decimal places and that it has at maximum 4 digits. So the next thing that we can set is also the slug. So the slug of the book. The slug is going to be used later in order to set the links. You will see that later. So in order to set the slug, again we say slug field. We say that this can be null. And also we say that this can be blank. Blank means that in order to create the model, you don't need to put the slug, because these two fields are mandatory, but this one is not. That's what blank means. So the next thing that we have to put here is the author. And here we have to put something fancy, which is the many-to-many field. What does this mean? It means that an author can have several books and a book can have several authors. So we put this here, and now here we have to say, okay, what is this many-to-many field aiming? So it is aiming at authors. So now we put here the class author, and that's it. Again, we have to redefine the save method, but since we have already created that there, it is as simple as doing this. Again, we can also define the string method, and here it is also almost the same, but in this case we have to use the title. And for example, you can put here that you are also going to include the price. So you put here self price, and that's it. So another cool thing that you can use is that you can define an inner class to set, for example, the ordering. How do you do that? So you create here the class meta, and inside here you have to create an attribute which is going to be called ordering. It needs to have this specific name. So once you have that, the next thing that you need to do is to say, hey, how do you want to order this? So for example, I want to order this by the title, and if there's a collision in the title, I want to order this then by the price. So it is as simple as this. So what is the next thing? The next thing is to save these changes. And how do we save these changes? We need to execute the command python 3 manage.py and then say make migrations. No changes. Whoa. Okay, it can say this, but the next thing that you need to do is to use migrate. And okay, I was for once scared. So yeah, once you have put this thing, it means that all these changes have been saved in the database. The database is using, well, the database Django uses is SQLite, but you can change it in a strange way, but yeah, whatever. So now, if we execute the run server, you are going to see that we don't have that message that we had before, that error message. So the next thing that we are going to do now is to create the admin page. What is the admin page for? It's, for example, for managing the models you have created. So for example, if you want to delete books, if you want to add a book, whatever, you can do that in the admin page. So how do we do this? First of all, we need to go also to the app name, then go to the admin file, and here you have to define things. So let me check, what do you have to define exactly? And here, what you need to first do is to import the models that you just have created. So for example, we put here from models, we are going to import the author model, the book model, and that's it. And here we are going to define the things that we want to be displayed in the admin page. How do we do this? We are going to again create a class. For example, we are going to call this class author admin, admin. And then here we are going to say that this is an admin and model admin. So here we are going to say what do we want to be displayed. And again, you just have to create an attribute, but this attribute needs to be in this specific way. So list display, and this is a tuple, and the tuple contains the names of the attributes that you want to display. So let me put this here. So for example, we have the author model, and here we have the admin model. So we want to display the name and the slash. So here in a string we put name, and here in a string we put also a slash. And that's how you create the author model. The next thing that you need to do is to register the model. How do you do that? You put here this arroba, and then here admin register. So here you have to put the name of the class that you want to register, and that's it. You have created the author admin model. So the next thing that we need to do is to do this thing, but for the book model. Since, let me change these places. Since we have here the book model, what we can do here is, first of all, change this, and here in list display we need to display the title, the price, the slash, and the author. But let's not display the title. So if we first do, if we put here price, then slash, and then, well, that's it. We are not going to display everything. And for example, there are things that Django creates by its own. So for example, in the models, each model has an ID, but it is not showing that. And if you want to see the ID, you can do here, ID. So let's test this. If we press here, run server, now we can go to the website. Let's see if this loads. Let me close this one. And the next thing that we have to do is to go to the /admin. And here, before going to this page, I forgot to tell you that you need to create the super user. How do we create the super user? You have to use Python 3, manage.py, and then create super user. And now it is going to tell you, hey, put a name. I'm going to put Kevin. Put an email address. I'm not going to put an email address, and a password. So the password in this case is going to be Kevin, and it's saying that, hey, this password is too similar to the name. We are going to say yes. And now let's execute again the server. And here we just put Kevin and Kevin. So now we are in the admin page, but we need, I think, to store this because this is not being displayed. So this is not displaying anything because we haven't done a special step which is very important. So you have to go to the tutorial folder, and here in settings you need to add the application. How do you add that? How do you do that? Here you put the name of the application, which is catalog. So you put here catalog, and that's it. Now let's execute the make migrations and migrate. So you see now that you have here a lot of things going on. And if we now execute again the run server and we go here, you are going to see that now from catalog, you have the author and the books. So if you come here, you can press add author, and here you can see that Slack is different because it is going to be done automatically. So we put here Kevin de la Coba Malam and we press save. You see that the Slack is being saved automatically. And also, if we come here and in book we put Kevin book price $15.99 and we say that the author is going to be Kevin, we save it, and there's a problem because in the admin, if I'm not wrong, I put it something wrong. So in the models.py, I forgot that here you have to put title. Oh wow. Okay, so having fixed that, you always have to check that for example you are using an attribute of the class, because I just copied this and I forgot to change this name and put here title. If we come back to the website and we update, I forgot also that here you need to put this as a string because you cannot concatenate an integer, well, you cannot concatenate numbers with that. So if we now update the page, you can see now that we have the price and the name, well, and the Slack of the book. But you see that we only have those two things, and that's because here we have only put those things. So if we add the ID and we also, let's say that we add the title, let me change this. So now here, if we update, let me see that, yeah. Here you have the title, the ID, and yeah, everything. You can see that you can change things in a very easy way. But let's do something cool. Now we are going to create a populate method to automatically put things in the database, because it can be very boring to be putting things in the admin page. So if you want to create a command to do that, first of all, you have to go to the application folder. Let me close all this. In the application folder, you have to create a new folder called management. And here inside, you have to create another folder called commands. And inside commands, we are going to call the method populate. Well, we are going to create the file populate.py. So inside here, what you have to do is again a new class to create the models, well, to create different things. So first thing, we are going to import the models, and for that we put here catalog models import, I forgot this, import author and import book. Then we are going to say here this is an important import because we are going to import the Django class of commands. So we are going to say that from django.core.management.base import base command. And here we are going to add some things, a cool library called faker in order to create fake things. And we are going to say from faker import faker, and from random import randint. So we have all the things that we need, and now we need to create a class called command. We are going to say that this is the base command, well, this inherits from base command, and we need to create a method called handle. So now here, let me delete the things that I don't want to put. So now here, the next thing that we need to do is that, for example, in order to create fake data, we are going to create an object from the faker library. And now we have this. And now, in case we have authors or things created, we are going to delete all of them. So for that, we say that, okay, authors, give me all the objects, and I want to delete all the objects. And the same for books. If we have books, we are going to delete all of them. So the next thing is that we are going to create fake authors. How do we do that? For example, we can create a for loop in which we iterate, let's say 15 times. And now what I do is that, okay, I say that A is going to be an author, and in order to create an author, it is as simply as putting this. Since the author has one mandatory field, which was name, what we can do here is put here name, and the name is going to be a fake name. So we used this fake.name. And now we have created an author, but we need to save that author. So we press here a.save. And now here we are going to create 15 authors. So the next thing that we need to do is to create books. So let's say that we are going to create fake books. And let's say that in range, for example, 50 books. Let's create a lot of books. And in order to do that, you can do b is going to be a variable book, and you saw before that here we defined the attributes. You can define them later as well. So we can do the next thing. B title is equal to fake, and the faker library has one method which is company, and I thought that okay, this is going to be fine to to create fake names of books, and the price is going to be always the same. Let's put here 15.99, and the next thing is that we need to save this thing. But you may be saying, hey, you haven't put any author. How do you put an author? So you have to save first. Before putting any author, you have to save. And the next thing that you are going to do is we are going to do here a silly thing to not repeat authors, but we are going to put here -1 and for i in range. And let's say that at maximum the author can have 2 authors, 1 or 2. So we are going to create a random number, and this is going to be random 1 or 2. And here the index in which we are going to take the author from is going to be rand_int, and it's going to go from 0 to the number of authors -1. So this index is the one in which we are going to take the author. Well, the one in which the author of the book is going to be. So what we can also do here is that, okay, if we have repeated an index in the same book, hey, change. We don't want the same author 2 times in the same book. So for that we say if index is equal to the previous index, we again calculate this. So here we are going to say that be author add, and now we are going to add an author, and you need an object or an author object, and for that you call the author class. Again, you call objects, and you can call all, or you can filter or whatever. And here you are going to use the variable index, and after this you are going to set the previous index to this index. So with this you have created a command in order to populate the database. And let's test it. Let's say if we have any mistake. So Python 3 manage.py, and now here you just put the name of the file populate, but you don't put the .py populate here, and you see that there wasn't any error. The next thing that we can do is to test if everything was okay going to the admin website. So if we go to the admin website, let's go here and let's update the page. You see here that we have a lot of things, and thanks to that we have all fake things. So this was pretty useful, and you see that it's very cool, and now we can test all the website. So what is the next thing that we have to do? We have to create now the pages, because now we just have the admin page, but we don't have anything else. So we still have this. So if we want to change this, the next thing that we have to do is to first create HTML files, and we are going to create a base HTML file in which you are going to have all the basic things that the web has. You are going to see this in a moment. So the first thing that you need to do, you have to create the templates library, the templates directory. So how do you do that? First of all, you go to the catalog app, and here you're going to create a directory. So the directory is going to be called templates, and inside this directory you also need to create a catalog directory. So this name of this folder needs to be exactly the same as the app. So the next thing is that in templates we are going to create a file called base.html, and look, I have this prepared. So since this is HTML5 and yeah, it is not as important as this, let's copy all this, and now I will show you how everything works inside this file. So you just need to know that you need to create a normal HTML5 file, but you can use these kind of things. So later in other files you can redefine this thing, or for example here you can put content inside here. So this is pretty useful. So the next thing that we need to do is to create views in order to redirect those pages to, well, those objects to pages. So for example, we want to create a page to display all the books, a page to display all the authors, a page to display a specific author, and a page to display a specific book. So how do we do that? It is very, very simple. So let me go here, views, and yeah. In order to create this, we are going to leave this import, but we need to first, as always, import the models that we want to print. So we are going to say that from the current folder, go to models, and here give me author and book. The next thing that you need to use is the from django.views give me generic. And generic is going to be pretty useful because in a very short way, you can define a view to display things. So for example, you can now define the class book list view, and if you use now generic dot list view, you are saying that the class book list view is going to inherit from this list view. And this is pretty useful because this list view displays book in a list. So it is going to be very useful. So you have to say that, hey, this book list view, how is it going to be, well, what is it going to use? So you say here that it is going to use the model.book. And here you have to define an attribute which is context object name. It needs to have this specific name. And here you are going to say where is it going to be stored the books, the list of books. So for example, we are going to call this book list. So in the HTML, when we want to access the list of books, you just need to type this book list. This is pretty useful. The next thing that we need to use is the author list view. And again, here you just put generic.list view, 2 dots. Now the model that this uses is the author model. The context object name is going to be equal to author list. And again, in the HTML file to display authors, you are going to use this string to get the list of authors. So next thing, let's define the detail view. So the views in which we are just going to see one book. So for that, we are going to call here we are going to create the class book detail view. And again, here you use generic and detail view. And here you just need to set the model that this is going to use. So for example, it is going to use book. Here you are going to use the author detail view, and again generic detail view, and you are going to say that the model is going to be author. So you have seen that this is very simple and very useful, and here you have created a list of books, a list of authors, and a detail page of books and a detail page of author. But we have not finished. We have to create a main page. How do we do that? I'm going to show you another way to create a view, because this is for generic things. But if you want a different view, what you can do is to create a method, well, a function, and this function, let's call it index, and it receives always a request. So the next thing that you can do, well, let's say that in this page we want to display the number of books and the number of authors. So for that you say num books equal book. Let's take all the objects, let's say all, and here let's say that we want to count them. So this is going to have an integer variable. We are going to do the same for the author page. So let's say author objects all, and now count all of them. And now we are going to define a variable, a dictionary, to store that. And it's going to be very simple as this. So whenever we want to access this, we are going to set a key that is going to have this. So for example, let's call this object context. You are going to see that name later. And it is a dictionary. So let's say that the key numbooks is going to have the value of numbooks. And again, remember one thing, like don't get confused with this. When you go to the HTML and you want to access this value, you have to take this key, the key. So for example, if we call this number books, you have to put in the HTML number books, no num books, no. So you have to put number books. Next thing that you need to use is the num authors, and let's say that this num author is going to be this. So let's put here an S here as well, and we have defined the context object. Next thing that we need to use is to use this function that it was imported by default. So we put here return render, and the first thing that you need to send this function is the request object. So here you put request, let's see, okay, request. The next thing that you need to put is the name of the HTML file that you are going to use. We are going to define that file later, but it's going to be called index.html. And the next thing that you have to define is the context, and you have to say that the context is equal to context. So remember, I'm saying here that the context, that is the name, this may be confused. Like let's call this dict with data. So the context, which is going to be passed to the HTML file, is going to have the dict with data. Okay, let me put this here, and that's it. We have declared, declared the views. So now the next thing that we need to use is the URL. So we need to define the URL in order to give a way to access to all those things. So how do we do this? First of all, we need to go to the URLs of tutorial, because here we are going to define something. And this something is that, hey, whenever you access something related to catalog, I want you to go to the URL file of catalog. So we are going to define here a URL file, not like this. Yeah. In the URL of tutorial, which is like the main URL that is going to be accessed, we are going to say that. So first, we are going to say that, hey, if you receive this path, if you receive catalog slash, you are going to go to the URLs of catalog. For that, we need to import another function, which is called include. So you put here include catalog.urls, and that's it. And the next thing that we are going to do is that the main page, the page that doesn't have anything here, is going to call the index method that we created here. But how do we access this method from here? It is as simple as putting here from catalog.views, give me the index method, and that's it. Okay, so now we have defined these URLs, but we have a problem. And is that, okay, we haven't defined the files, the HTML files. How do we define the HTML files? Again, this is very simple. And here, you just have to access this. And the index HTML file needs to be outside this catalog folder. So we are going to create here the index.html file. And here, you just need to say first that this file is going to extend from that base file that we created. So we say here extends base.html, and here we are going to say that in that block content that we created here, we are going to put the things that we want. So for example, what we can say is that, okay, in the block content here is going to be ending the block content, and for that we put here end block. We are going to have a paragraph which is going to have a strong field in which we are going to have a link for books. So in order to define that link, well, first of all, let's say that here we are going to have number of books, and I forgot to put this as a link. And again, remember one thing, that we are going to put here the link, but for now we are not going to put anything in the link, so this link won't work. So the next thing that we need to put is, well, another of this, but just for authors. So finally, the next thing that we are going to do is to display the number of books. As I said before, you need to access, let me go to the views file, where is it here? In the views file we set number of books as num_books, so here in the index we have to use the num_books, and here in the other place we have to use num_authors, and that's it. So now I think we are able to access to this page. So if we open the terminal, let's remove this one and go to the previous one. We have a problem, and is that we don't have defined the catalog URL. We have it here, but I don't know why is it not accessing that. Okay, so it is just a mistake. I need to put here an S and that's it. So now I think this will reload, it won't reload. So if we execute this, now we have to change this because this admin needs to be unique. And now this was updated, and now the thing is that, yeah, we have this main page and we have 50 books and 15 authors. But if we press this, we don't go anywhere because we don't have defined these links. So these links need to be defined in the URLs of the catalog folder. So here we are going to define a path. Let me close the server and the terminal. We are going to define a path in which for example, let me check this. So if we want to access the list of books, we are going to call this pack books, but since it is here, since we are redirecting this to this, the path is going to be catalog books, but here in this URL, you just need to put books. So it is going to be called that, and here you are going to say that we are going to use from, we can remove this import, from the file views, I want to import everything. And here we can say that I want the book list view and I want this as a view. So you just use this method as view. Next thing is that we need to give it a name. This is important, give a name to this path. So you're going to call this books. And again, now we have to define this for authors. So you can do this, author, but here you need to use the capital letter and that's it. So we need to now define the pages for the detailed pages, and the next thing that you can do is to, let's define the one for the author. Here we are going to use the detail view. So for that you put here detail view, and we are going to call this author instead of authors. And now you have to say the same, well, you have to do the same for the books. So you have to use book here, and here you are going to use book detail view. So now we have defined all the links in order to access to those fields. But we need to do something else in the book and the author. How do we know which book and which author do we want to to get. So for that, we are going to use the slug that we defined, and in order to receive as an argument here in the URL a slug, you just need to put here first the type that you are going to receive, which is the type slug, and the name. We are going to call this slug. So we need to do this same thing down here in author. And yeah, that's it. We have defined the URLs. The next thing that we need to use, well, the next thing that we need to do is to define those HTML files. And yeah, this is going to be a little bit long, but yeah. So in order to define those templates, those HTML files, you need to go to the folder templates. But now, since it is using those strange generic things, you need to do it from the catalog folder. Inside templates, you go to the catalog folder. And here, the thing that you have to do is to, for example, create the file booklist.html. So here, the thing that you need to do is to first, as always, extends base.html, and now we are going to define the block content. So we are going to also say that this block content ends here, and block. And now we are going to define things. So first of all, we are going to define a title. So let's call this page books. And now in order to have it in a small kind of table, we are going to define this. And inside here, we are going to do a loop to iterate over the list of books. And do you remember that here in views, we used this context object by name? We have to use this in order to access to that list, book list. So in book list, what we are going to do is, we are going to use this for book in book list. We are going to end the for here, and for, let's put the spaces, and now we are going to define all the things that we want. So for example, we want to define the title. Let's say that, okay, this is going to be the title that is going to be a link to the detail page, and for that we put here href, and we are not going to put anything for now. Later we will put the things, and this is going to have the book title. Remember one thing, whenever you want to put like code, you put here this, but whenever you want to access to attributes variable, you put two of the curly brackets. Here you put the percentage curly brackets, and here whenever you want to access values, you put the two curly brackets. So now we are going to say that we want the book title. We also say that we want the price, and here we are going to put the book price. Let's put here price. Here we are going to put authors, and since we want to print all the authors of the book, and this is a many to many field, the thing that we have to do is to now put here for author in book, give me the attribute author and give me all the authors. We are going to end the for here, and for now we are going to create a link in order to access to that author. So here we are going to put here the author, and since we have defined that to a string, we are going to have just the name of the author. And that's all for the book list. Let's define the author list, which is going to be almost the same. So let's copy the file, and here let's say that this is going to be the author list. One thing is that you need to put these names as this. So for example, if you want the book list, you have to put it as book list, because Django automatically defines, like Django is going to automatically go for that name. So for example, in the book list view, it's going to be automatically going for the book list HTML file. So now in author, let's call this authors. And now since the author only has one thing, we can put here name, two dots, let's define a link, but an empty link, And here we are going to print the author. And that's it, that's the author, because the author doesn't have anything. And now let's go to the book detail page. So if we put here book detail.html, the thing that we need to do is to put here extends base HTML, and now we are going to again define the block content. Let's just copy all this because that part is the same, but now we are going to remove this, well, until here. And now let's say that we want to say, hey, this is the book, and we want to access the book title. And you may be wondering, hey, why are you accessing the book object if you haven't sent that? Django does that automatically. Just know that Django gives you the book variable automatically, because the class is called book, but yeah, all with small letters, not capital letters. So the next thing that we have to define, let's say that we want to also display the price, and yeah, the price is going to be here. And again, since this is a variable, we do it in this way. So we put here book price. Hey, so now we also want to display the authors, and here we are going to do the same as we did in the previous, in the books list. So we are going to define a loop in order to do that, but let's do that fast. And for that, we just have to copy all this. So in the book detail, we are going to do that. Okay. And now we have defined this page, and we need to define the last one, which is the author detail, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, author detail. So author detail.html. It was created here, but always you need to create that here. Yes, I want to move it. And again, this is going to be very similar to this. So we copy, remember, extend base, then this is going to be using the block content. Well, it's going to be in the block content. And yeah, we are going to just put here that this is going to be author name. So now we have defined all the pages. If we go to the terminal and we run the server, let's see if anything is wrong. If we press here, we don't have anything, but if we put here catalog, books, we have all the books. And if we click here, we don't have anything, but if we put here authors, we have all the authors, but those are not being displayed. I don't know why. Okay, because here I need to use the context object by name. So if we come again to this name is author list. So now in this file, I have to use author list and say here author. So if I come here back and I update, now I have this. But let's do that these links work. Why did I say before that it was important to put here a name? You are going to see why. Because if we want that, for example, in the main page, whenever you click here, you go to that page of all the books, the thing that you need to do is to refer to this link. So how do you do that? You can go to the main page, and here you could put the path to that page. But Django has something very useful, which is this URL, and we are going to go to books, and that's it. You put here URL books, but you put this between quotes, simple quotes, and that's it. And if you want to access to the authors, you just do this, but here you put authors. And remember, you need to use this name, and this is truly useful. So now, if I update and I press this, you see that now I go to this page. And here, if I press this, it's not going anywhere because this has not been defined. And let's go to the author pages. And again, you see that this is very cool. But It is a little bit different with these detail pages because you need to send this slug. How do you do this? You're going to see that it's very simple. So if we go to the book list page, and here, this is a page for the book. Again, well, you say the URL thing. So you put here URL, in this case book, because we want to access to a specific book. So you say here, but now you just need to send the slug. And how do you do that? Book.slug. And that's it. So the same happens with the author. You need to send the slug, but you want to access the author page. So here you are going to put, let's remove this quote. You are going to put author, and here you are going to put author slug. So we define this in the book list. Let's define that also in the author list. So I think that in the author list we are just going to define the authors. Yeah. So we put here that link. We update this page, and now if I go to authors, okay, we have a problem because Sarah Henderson, no reverse for Sarah Henderson, so let me check that. Okay, so I know the problem. As I said, you need to put here with quotes. So let's go back to all the pages where I didn't put any quotes. And again, here, oh wait, we forgot to put this one here, but it needs to have quotes. And here, again, this needs quotes, this needs quotes. And I think that's everything. So if we update the page, now it works. Let's go to this, we press here. And now if we press this, we go to this book. And if we press here, we go to this author. But here, I forgot to put in the author detail here. Author, and yeah. So this was everything for the Django tutorial. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you understood. Remember that you have this in the GitHub. So give it a like, share, subscribe, and see you in the next one.